people that work with FCAP. It's sometimes faster to get a cat that comes in a trap down for surgery. Last weekend, we went to Little Washington, where we're partnering with Chalkawinity Animal Hospital and Pamlico Animal Hospital. Their veterinarians are coming out and helping me teach the students in our mobile hospital. And we did, I guess, about 60 cats for the weekend. We have done enough on Hatteras Island now. We've done over 2,000 cats. Yeah. That, guess what? They can't trap enough to make it worth our while to come out to do, you know, if they could catch 35 cats in a week for us, it would be a good week. And so now they're relying on a couple of veterinarians to come down once or twice a year to do those, or they're taking them up the beach, because it used to be that you would drive down there and you would just see cats everywhere, and that just doesn't happen anymore. But they can't ever back off, because it could go out of control again very quickly. Some of you may be familiar with the challenges that Ocracoke presented at one time, and a lot of people went out, veterinarians and veterinary students went out, and a lot of focus was put on Ocracoke, and they really got ahead of things. But then it was under control, right? And so it was creeping back up again. And Ocracoke is actually Hyde County, and Hyde County doesn't have a lot of resources, and so we periodically partner with them too. And we would be delighted to partner with you all, but again, we're not in a position to really do enough to make a huge difference in a short period of time. But what we've found has been the most successful, working with all the communities around the state, and my experience working with our graduates who go out, as well as people across the country, is when they focus on those zip codes where most of the cats are coming into the shelter, and now with animal control having great data as far as knowing exactly those zip codes, that is where you can make tremendous progress really quickly with in two ways: cleaning up the backyard populations, the people that are feeding kitties, and so that you help them get those cats trapped and in, as well as providing means for spay-neuter vouchers so that the rest of the cats, and frankly the dogs as well, I don't want to leave out the dogs, because Bev asked me earlier, what did I think of myself as a cat person or a dog person, and I was afraid it might be a trick question. But I told her that I'm really pretty good with everything except the big constrictors, those really big snakes. You know, I'm just not quite there yet. But and that's a Florida problem. I'm just not going to go down and help in the Everglades with that. They're going to have to work that out on their own. But that's a place where we've been working with the Durham Animal Control. Some of you may know that the Sheriff's Department runs animal control there. And Timothy Deck and I, who's a lieutenant there, and I have been partnering for the last couple of years to do community wellness clinics in some of those hard-hit areas where they get a lot of animals surrendered from people in those zip codes. And over 2/3 of the people in the area where we set up live below the poverty line in that part of the city of Durham. And so we set up and we do vaccines. We don't just do rabies, we do vaccines. We do core vaccines, which would cover the major diseases of dogs and cats. We bring the mobile hospital because we have a no lost cat policy. We don't take any cats out or open any cat carriers unless they're inside the mobile hospital. And so far so good. And people don't have a collar. They do when they leave. If they don't have a cat carrier, they do when they leave. And the other thing that's really exciting is that we have spay-neuter vouchers, and people are using them. And they are setting up appointments, and they're getting help from the community volunteers who are also setting up there to get signed up for someone to help transport their pets if they leave them. Many of the people that are coming to these clinics are walking there with their pets. They're carrying their pets in their arms. One gentleman brought his two cats, his two tomcats, in the Bojangles, you know, the Bojangles cat carrier. Are y'all familiar with the Go Box?
Yeah.
It's a great cat carrier. He had enough electricity with his wheelchair to get to us. He didn't have enough to get home. And so he was just relying on faith that somebody would give him a ride. And so the last time I saw him, he was sitting in the front seat with the cats in the Bojangles box. And one of the animal control guys had put his truck in the back, or his wheel, it was heavy. It took several of them to get it loaded up. And off they went. So we're pretty excited that a lot of the people that are coming back this year, for example, to get their rabies vaccines boosted, guess what? Those cats and dogs are now spayed and neutered because of the community outreach that we did. And we provided all the vaccines for free. We provided every dog and cat that came was treated for fleas and ticks with a long-acting flea product. I really truly, because based on veterinarians that were working the lines with our students, the community veterinarians volunteered, we didn't have a lot of people that came and took advantage of this as a freebie. There may have been one or two. There's always somebody that, you know, will work the system. But, you know, it was a part of it was a part of downtown Durham where a lot of people are probably not super comfortable coming just to save a few bucks on a rabies vaccine, frankly. I don't say that I didn't feel safe totally, but there was a gunshot at 8:30 in the morning, a block and a half away, and we were set up in an elementary school, and there was a gunshot at 3:30 in the afternoon, several blocks away, and not 10 days after our clinic, a young man that was 16 years old was shot and killed in that neighborhood. And so, despite all that, people still came out. They stood in line on this athletic field for a long time so they could get a wellness exam for their pet. They didn't come just for a vaccine. They were really concerned about the health of their pet. And when we talked to them about the importance of spay-neuter, they volunteered, oh, and my neighbor has these cats and this. So we were able to get a lot of good information from people. We developed the trust. We weren't trying to take their pets. We were trying to help them be successful pet owners. And I think it's been a really, really good program for parts of that city where they were getting so many animals brought into the shelter because people just didn't have access to spay-neuter, or I would say a spay-neuter that was affordable for them. There's access, I mean, there's spay-neuter clinics in that area, but if you don't have any money even for a rabies vaccine, you certainly don't have $50 to $90 to spay or neuter your cat. And so that's what we're trying to do, is work with funding sources. We'll help identify people, and we can do some spay-neuter, which doesn't cost anything at all and we would love to have donations too, because we're 100% run by donations from my standpoint as well. But I think that before you get really super involved in various big programmatic changes, I think it's always helpful as a community, as a county, to sit down and really talk about what are our goals, what do we plan to achieve, where do we see ourselves in a year, where do we see ourselves in 3 years, where do we see ourselves in 5 years, and if we have those goals, then I like to work backwards and say, well, if we're going to reduce our euthanasia rate of cats at the shelter that are coming in for the community by so many, then that means that so many more animals need to be spayed and neutered in the community. We need to have various other programs in place to help make this happen. And I'm not exactly sure where you are all in that planning process, and how we might best support you. So that's why I'm not big on just standing up and giving a program like we're the state and we're here to help. Because so you guys have heard that before, right?
I've heard it, but I don't want to repeat it.
You don't want to repeat it.
Yeah,
So,
the version I've heard.
So we really do want to help, but we want to help you, and every county works it a little differently, and we're really flexible. You know, as far as, you know, what we're comfortable with is that other than we don't work on, the students can't work on people's personally owned pets. So if you bring in things that are community cats, that with that label on them that maybe you have trapped out behind the Bojangles or wherever, then the veterinary medical board doesn't get too upset with us. We've recently gotten we've gotten some clarification from the veterinary medical board, and veterinarians in the audience will have gotten this from our association. But at this point, veterinary students can't work under the supervision of just any veterinarian and do surgeries anymore unless they're fourth-year veterinarians that are actually on a formal externship. So all of a sudden that's thrown it back to the mobile hospital and our service learning to be able to get those students more opportunities. So we're really trying to expand our program at this point to be able to fill in those blanks. And so that could potentially be very helpful to communities like yours, because we're kind of highly visible and it draws attention to the spay-neuter, the importance of spay-neuter of cats and early spay-neuter of cats. That's also really important as well, because you just blink and the next thing you've got 6 kittens. But Bev, I'm going to kick it back to you and to see kind of where you all are at. I know most counties kind of do spay and neuter feral cats, community cats. It's more of a shotgun approach because it's based on who's trapping, who are the people that are feeding colonies, that sort of thing, rather than a strategic plan to really focus on a specific area. For example, we took, through Focus Spay Neuter, we took Meredith College from 450 cats to maybe 2 or 3. And we took the Arboretum from I don't know how many cats to 1 that didn't prey on cat. Now it took us a while, and we got main campus down. It's had a little bump. We're gonna have to get back on main campus. We took our state fairgrounds, the highway patrol, and the vet school from 78 cats to 12. So you can do this, and we did it in 5 years. So, but you have to really focus on those areas, and it meant that people who were feeding cats, had their own colonies, actually went and helped out in areas that they didn't think of as theirs. And I don't know if that's something that people here are interested in pursuing, working in some of these parts of the community where we know most of the animals are coming from.
Yeah, I speak